Okay, hello everyone. This is the second video of the first printed crochet pattern. So the first one we did was the very first pattern printed in French, but that was ever printed that used the term crochet. This is the very first English printed crochet pattern that doesn't use the term crochet at all, but it is a crochet pattern. So let's just move right on to this one here. It says here, cast on 160 single chain stitches. First row, 3 chain stitches not attached to the cast on row. Attach a stitch by working a stitch on the 4th stitch of the cast on row of the foundation. Row 2, always make your attached stitch on the center of one of the 3 chain stitches worked in the last row. Then 3 chain stitches. Every succeeding row is done in this way. When sufficient is done for forming the purse, join it up the usual way. By tambouring it, should we start calling slip stitching tambouring? By tambouring it together about 2.5 inches at each side and draw it up at the end. The attached stitch may be a bead stitch. This is George Street, Edinburgh. Oh, 63 George Street, Edinburgh. I guess that's the address of the person who is Jane Gogan. I think that's Gogan. Okay, so this is from 1840. I already got the material I want to use. I'm going to use this gray number 10 bedspread cotton, and I don't want the stitches to be too tight, so I'm going to use a 1.75 millimeter hook. And for my embellishments, I will be using this minty pastel mint from Aunt Lydia's. There we go. That's going to be my colors. So cast on 160 single chain stitches. And again, I'm going to leave the link to the blog down below where you can get this pattern. This is just a screenshot. There's no way to download it. This is just a screenshot. But the book, if you go all the way down to the bottom of the blog, you will find a link for the book on archives.org. So you can pick up the whole book. But I don't know how many crochet stitches are in there. And I don't know that any of them are going to be written in terms that's even remotely related to any kind of crochet that we're familiar with. Just a little warning there. So 160 chain stitches. 3, 2, okay, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. 10. I'll be back when I have 150 more. Okay, I have the 160 chains. It's quite long. The part that I keep rereading in my head is where it says to tambour it up, which is basically to slip stitch it shut, 2.5 inches on each side. That would make this just a rectangle. I don't think that's right. And if I did it this way, that's definitely a lot more than 2.5 inches on each side. So I'm a little confused. It doesn't seem like we are working in the round. When sufficient is done for forming the purse, join it up in the usual way by tambouring it together about 2.5 inches at each side and draw it up at each end. Draw it up at each end. Like cinch the bottom. This is going to be interesting, I think, because I'm confused. It's the measurements are what's confusing me. 2.5 inches at each side. I could see if I could understand if it said like 1 foot at each side, you know, or 12 inches. Then it would be more proportional to the width. Because right now, folded in half, this chain folded in half is 11 inches. This is 2.5 inches here. So you see what I mean? How it just doesn't make sense. It would make sense if it was like 12 inches on each side. That's 12 inches there, which is an inch longer than the width. I'm just so confused. All right, let's just carry on with the stitch pattern for now. So it said to chain 3, right? Cast on 160 single chains. First row, 3 chain stitches. 1, 2, 3. Attach a stitch by working a stitch on the 4th stitch of the cast on row of foundation. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4. And that's going to be a slip stitch. That's a tambour. And then chain 3 again. 1, 2, 3. It doesn't say how many to skip, does it? Attach a stitch by working on the 4th stitch of the cast on row. So every 4th stitch, it doesn't make sense. 1, 2, 3, 4. Maybe it does, I don't know. Slip stitch. Okay, just gonna keep going because that's what it says. Chain 3. Skip 3, 1, 2, 3, and in the 4th chain, work a tambour. And if I'm not pronouncing it right, I'm sorry. Chain 3, 1, 2, 3, and in the 4th. I am working in the back bumps. That's just my personal preference. 1, 2, 3. Okay, I'm going to continue to repeat this. 1, 2, 3, and in the 4th. I'm going to repeat this all the way to the end. Hopefully I got my chain count right. I will be right back. Okay, so my stitch count was good. So row 2, it doesn't really tell us how to work up to row 2. It just says row 2, always make your attached stitch on the center one of the 3 chain stitches worked in the last row, then 3 chain stitches. So it isn't really telling us how to start the next row. Wouldn't that be easy? You know, as a pattern writer, wouldn't that just be the easiest thing in the world? Just give the basic bones of the pattern and let the reader figure it out for the most part. So let's start with a chain of, let's see here, how would a chain of 3 work out? I mean, I guess that kind of works out. Yeah, that works out. So chain of 3, then slip stitch into the 3rd chain of your last loop, and then chain 3, not the 3rd chain, let me do that again, the middle chain. So you see you have 1, 2, 3 chains, the middle chain. And then 1, 2, 3, the next chain space over, and the middle chain, 1, 2. One, 2, 3. Middle chain. Again, I'm not really sure what to do about the 2.5 inches. I mean, I'm just going to keep going until it's the normal size of a bag, I suppose. Because you can't even fold it this way. And only stitching up 2.5 inches. That's it right there. So it, you know, it doesn't make sense either way. The wording is just kind of, the measurements are kind of not making too much sense. Yeah, no, I don't know. 2, I'm going to assume that's a half. I can only assume that's a half. 2.5 inches at each side, which tells me that you take, no, because it says to cinch up the top and bottom, doesn't it? Draw up at each end. So it wants us to, I mean, I don't know. I just don't know. I'll figure it out. Okay, so on row 2, I made it all the way over to the other end. I've chained 3, and I think in the second chain, so here's my first chain. So in the second chain over, I will work that slip stitch, and then I'm just going to repeat chain 3, and in the third, the middle chain, work my slip stitch, and then carry on. I'll be back when I get down to the other end. There we go. I'm still over here trying to figure out exactly what they mean by the measurements. I may have to just play, I don't know. Use common sense, I suppose. Okay, I will be right back. I hope that's going to line up right. Yeah, it looks good. Okay, I'll be right back. Okay, made my way over to the other end. Let's see here. So I'm going to chain 3, and I guess just this, again, second chain over, which will be right on the outer edge there. And yeah, just repeat. Chain 3, turn in the middle stitch. So 1, 2, and work my slip knot. 1, 2, 3. There we go. Now let's see, how does that look? Yeah, I mean, it's a straight line, so okay. I'm going to keep doing this over and over again, each row, and it still baffles my mind what they're talking about with 2.5 inches. I don't get it. Unless this bag is meant to be just a rectangle. Maybe you put your umbrella in it. No, I'm kidding. They had parasols back then, but I don't get it. It's literally going to be just a like that. It makes no sense. I mean, I would work, what, 5 inches up and then fold it in half. Like work 5 inches up and then fold it and seam both sides up 2.5 inches. That makes no sense to me. None. Kind of wish that we had only worked this many and then made a, I don't know. Maybe, no. Wait. No, because it says to seam it up, tambour it up on both ends. I don't get it. I'm going to keep working on it. Okay, so I worked up, I know, this is all I can see too. This is where I wasn't paying attention and I accidentally chained 4 instead of 3. It's all I can see. Even my peripheral vision sees it. So I worked up 5 inches, and I also decided that since my starting chain area is so much looser than this, I want this to be the bottom, and I'm going to make this, the starting chain section, the top. So as far as how to, it says to cinch. Now, also, here's what I'm going to do. I'm just going to fold it in half like this and timbre up one side, not both ends. I don't get it. So there's 2 ways I can go with this. I'd like to add a little bit of embellishing, but as you can see, it is so much bigger up here. I may not have to add the embellishing. Stay true to the 1 stitch that existed in crochet back then, and just come down a few rows and gather it up here so that it creates a really pretty ruching at the top. Yeah, I don't know. I feel like, should it matter considering I did this and I added double crochets right here? What do we think? Break the rules with this one, stay traditional with this one? Let's just stay traditional then. Yes, let's just stay traditional for once. I will just stick to the rules if there are any. Oh yeah, I was going to do, okay, so before I timbre it up and do all of that, let's go ahead and make a drawstring. And I think these 2 colors are going to look really pretty together. Very subtle and very pretty. So since I am going to just stick to the rules, or let's just pretend it's 1840, there are no rules, but there's also no other stitches. There's literally just no other stitches in crochet. And let me get you down here a little bit. So what I'm going to do is work up a chain. I don't know how long. I'm just going to keep going until I think it's long enough. And, well, I'll be right back. I'm just going to work up a chain really quick. Okay, I think this chain will be plenty long enough. Let me measure it really quick. It is 16.5 inches. I'm just going to work 1 row of slip stitch or tambour all the way back down the other side. And do I want to go into the side of the stitch or the back bump? I think I'm just going to go in the back bump. Might create a cleaner look. There we go. So just 1 slip stitch in every chain all the way down. Because again, there was only 1 stitch that existed in crochet. So that's what we're going to do, at least in this British book. And were the British fully aware of the double stitch that we did yesterday? Maybe. Maybe. I kind of can't see why they wouldn't be, considering that book came out in 1837. This pattern came out in 1840. But in this book, they are only instructing 1 stitch. And this is making quite a nice cord. A little bit stiff of a cord, but it'll do. It's a nice looking cord though. I'll be right back. All right, so I'm going to start up here. This is my starting chain, but because it's so much looser, this is going to be the top of the bag. So I'm going to start here at the top of the bag, work my way down, and then leave a long tail to cinch all of this shut. So there isn't really a right or wrong side. I'm just going to, let's see here, is that just 2 strands there? Yeah, it surely is. All right, I'll just go into there. And yes, in there. I got some tails to weave in. Okay, so it wants us to timbre it by timbering it together, ignoring the inches they recommend. Okay, so some loose slip stitching. Or timbering. Make sure I'm doing this loose. I think this is meant to be a round bag, like a pumpkin, you know, like a round bag. By cinching up the bottom and the top, it's going to make it round. All right, so I'm going to keep timbering it all the way down. Then I will come back and we will cinch it shut. Okay, timbred my way down to the bottom. Get this out of the way here. Okay, I'm going to leave a really, really long tail. And get my darning needle and start. There's my seam. That's how it's going to look on the other side. And I'm just going to start, I'm going to go this way. Come over here, and I'm just going to literally go in and out of each space. Oops, sorry. In and out of each available space. I have never made a bag like this before, and I am so happy that I get to do that now. This is so special, I think. Easy peasy. Okay. Cinch this completely shut. So to anchor this down, I am going to use this to sew the opening there very, completely closed. Again, 3 in the morning. I'm not speaking right. Not that I ever do, whether it's 3 in the morning or 3 in the afternoon. But yeah, a nice tight pull there. I'm going to go ahead and cut that down a little bit and give a few more knots on here. Then I will sew it completely shut and weave in the ends. I think one more ought to be just the amount of overkill I was looking for. Okay, grab this and let's just jump right in over here, over to the other side over here, and pull on that a little bit. Then we'll come over this way, Come up, jump across. There we go. Jump back across. And that's pretty good. That's closing up pretty good now. So I'm going to go ahead and start weaving in. Okay. Actually, I'm just going to tie these together a couple of times and then just cut. I do not intend for this bag to get a lot of heavy-duty wear, so I'm not concerned about these coming undone here. That's going to be good enough. Okay, there is the bottom. Oh, this could be like a little, this could be like a little baby's hat. There is the seam. Okay, so as far as the top goes, what I was thinking is to come down a couple of rows, like down here. Let me get my large darning needle. I'm thinking like 1, 2, 3 rows down and just start weaving in. That way it creates a ruching on the top. Oh, that's my seam. I'm like, why does that feel funny? Because it's my seam. Nope. I feel like, there we go. There we go. And we will tie this shut completely. Make sure that knot goes more to the top. Give us a little bit more wrist room. Okay. And here is the little purse. It's very, very cute. You can just hold it on your wrist, enough to hold, I don't know, maybe a pair of gloves or something. There we go. It's very cute, very simple, made entirely in 1840s tambour or timbre. There is that pattern. And please be sure to check out the blog where you're going to find all of the very interesting information on the origins of crochet, at least in the English-speaking world and the French-speaking world. You know, it's origins anyways, it's first patterns. But what do you guys think? I think this is very, very cute. I love it. It is absolutely adorable. Does it even need to be lined? Probably not. You know, it's just enough to hold, well, like here's my Nervancho poncho tie. you know, things like that. I can go ahead and put this in there, not that I would be walking around with that, but my lip balm, of course. How about some lipstick? Poison lipstick. Back then it probably was. Oh, they didn't have lipstick back then. You know, just little things like that. And there we go. You have all of your bits and baubles with you. I like it. You guys let me know what you think. This was a lot of fun. I'm going to always keep my eye out for these really old gems, and these being the two literal oldest. Yesterday's pattern being the first pattern ever written that uses the term crochet. Very first pattern ever written that uses the term crochet. And this being the first pattern ever written in English. Crochet pattern or tambour pattern. Very interesting. Okay, guys, I will see you in the next one. Bye.